Quicksilver is toxic.
It affects the nervous system
and kidneys
through air,
water
and food.
It can reach even the unborn
in a mother's womb.
Quicksilver pollutes the environment
for generations to come.
Mercury is quicksilver.
India in the 21st century. A country on the fast track to economic prosperity. But like most developing nations, the environmental costs of this growth are being ruthlessly ignored. Toxic elements are being used freely in a wide range of products, services, and industrial processes. Among these is one of the most toxic elements known to mankind, mercury. Mercury is a silvery, odorless, and highly volatile heavy metal, which is in liquid form at room temperature. Mercury never breaks down and tends to persist in the environment, cycling through land, air, and water, and traveling across the globe. China, the world's largest consumer of mercury, with India being the second, houses 16 of the 20 most polluted cities in the world. Mercury from China's more than 2,000 coal-fired power plants soar high into the atmosphere and around the globe on what has become a transcontinental conveyor belt of bad air. China is already believed to be the world's largest source of non-natural emissions of mercury. According to a recent study by the European Commission, an estimated 3,700 metric tons of mercury is purchased around the world each year for various industrial purposes. Mercury and its compounds have found usage in several applications and processes of everyday life, ranging from home appliances to industrial units. For industrial usage, mercury is found in coal-based thermal power stations, chlor-alkali plants, waste incinerators, mercury streetlights, batteries, and electric appliances with thermostats. It is also used as a coolant for nuclear reactors. The health and environmental devastation that large-scale mercury exposure can wreak is symbolized by what is known as the Minamata tragedy. Between 1932 and 1968, Chiso Corporation, a company located in Kumamoto, Japan, dumped an estimated 27 tons of mercury compounds into the Minamata Bay. But it wasn't till 1956 that the effects of this lethal exposure became apparent. An estimated 3,000 certified cases of the disease have been singled out so far, but sources predict there to be over 10,000 affected patients. The Minamata poisoning has become an almost symbolic representation of man's abuse of the environment. The Indian government has so far been unable to compile any comprehensive data on all the uses of mercury in the country. The heavy metal and its various forms are also under the free licensing policy of the government.
India is the second largest user of mercury, and we are a net importer. We don't mine any mercury here. Every bit of mercury we use is imported. And surprisingly, it's one of the only countries of this size which does not have any regulation for mercury usage or import. It's very easy for anybody to walk out into a chemical market in a city like Delhi and buy a flask of mercury, which is totally astounding because in nowhere else in the world can you buy mercury openly. It is for this reason that we need a policy initiative, because as the globe is shifting out from mercury to non-mercury uses, we have to create the demand for non-mercury uses here, and we need a clear policy signal to do that.
In most of the developed countries, the use of mercury in various products is either banned or regulated. In fact, India is one of the largest importers of the heavy metal from Europe. one of the biggest threats posed by mercury happens through bioaccumulation. This simply means an increase in the concentration of a substance from the environment into an organism. Mercury that finds its way into an aquatic environment gets converted into methyl mercury. This extremely toxic substance is bioaccumulative in nature and travels up the food chain. Hence, most fish-eating societies like the ones at Minamata and Niigata are at higher risk over other populations. Humans are exposed to mercury even in the safety of their home. Mercury is found in lighting appliances, mercury thermometers, light switches, batteries, and even certain cosmetics. Garbage dumps and landfill sites have been recorded to have some of the highest contamination levels found anywhere. A shocking fact here is that most of the waste at these sites comes out of our homes. New and improved substitutes of mercury have been discovered and created. Digital thermometers are safer and more effective. Use of CFL bulbs and mercury-free switches drastically reduce the outlet of mercury into the environment. But on the flip side, these bulbs are based on mercury and are thus a potential source of emission at the household level. The most significant changes will only happen once industries shift to using non-mercury products. Some of these changes could be in the form of chlor-alkaline plants, shifting to membrane-based technology, switching from tilt switches to mechanical or micro switches, shifting from an artisanal gold extracting process to non-mercury electrolytic process, and also to look at more viable mercury-free solutions for energy-efficient lamps. A major health concern is the presence of mercury in our schools and colleges. In a recent study, it was found that 15% of students in Kolkata's selected schools and intermediate colleges have played with liquid mercury, and an astounding 46% of them have held it on paper. A shocking 8% were even found to have inhaled it out of curiosity. Mercury compounds in these institutions are disposed either into the general waste stream or in the sink. But what was most disturbing was that 70% of the students were not clear about the health risks mercury poses.
Information has been sent out to the parents, the teachers know about it, the children know about it, and parents will slowly will just start depositing the mercury thermometers in the drop box, which will be taken along with the toxic slings and with the representation of the student body and the parent body to the government, and kept on the table and said, now what? We cannot have this kind of mercury poisoning our lives, and we definitely seek an answer.
Mercury has always been closely associated with the healthcare practice. Since the ancient period of Ayurveda to modern-day medicine, mercury in some form or the other has been used over the ages. Mercury in dentistry was first practiced by the Chinese civilization in the 7th century, but it wasn't until 1859 that the American Dental Association passed it as a safe medium for use. Dentists from the world over have used mercury amalgams for tooth fillings. There are conclusive studies today that show that an estimated 20% of the mercury used in these fillings is lost in the first 10 years.
It's used in amalgam fillings. Mercury is mixed with silver alloy and to form filling material that's used in the dentistry. Patients come up and they ask us whether how are you going to fill the tooth. Please give us a tooth colored filling. I don't think they are aware of the toxic effects of mercury, but I think it's more a cosmetic preference.
A recent study conducted at Delhi hospitals have shown very high levels of mercury in ambient air, hinting of exposure of healthcare staff and patients in such facilities.
And there are two issues here. First of all, if mercury use can be avoided, it should be avoided. If not, then you need a very thorough program of occupational health surveillance, which means you have to educate workers, you have to have a good ventilation system in place, you have to provide them personal protective equipment, you have to monitor the workroom air for the mercury concentrations. So I think that roughly it's a lot on education and containing the exposure. You see, all occupational environmental medicine is nothing but handling the exposure rather than handling the person. So you have to keep the exposures down so that the levels which are injurious to health are not created.
Two of the most important readings of a patient are procured with the help of mercury instruments. The common fever thermometer and the sphygmomanometer are the two most commonly used instruments during the diagnosis of a patient. Both meters have traditionally used mercury due to its wide liquid stage temperature range, which makes it convenient to use in thermometers. On an average, a 100-bedded hospital pumps almost 3 kilograms of mercury in the environment each year.
Many hospitals in Delhi, Chennai, Mumbai have started removing their old mercury thermometers and replacing them with safer digital thermometers. They've also started changing the blood pressure instruments, which have a significant amount of mercury and which cause exposures to nurses and ward boys in the hospital setting.
St. Stephen's Hospital in New Delhi has made a step towards the positive. They were one of the first institutions to become a mercury-free hospital in the capital.
We at St. Stephen's Hospital were sensitized to the adverse effects of mercury. So from 2002 to around 2005, we had a gradual phase out of mercury thermometers, and currently we have completely stopped buying, purchasing mercury thermometers and are using only digital thermometers in all areas in the ward.
On an average, 70 thermometers were broken yearly in a 300 to 500 bed hospital. The staff at St. Stephen's Hospital is now glad that this practice has been reversed. Mercury spill management is one of the key issues being addressed at hospitals these days. Steps like these will ensure the safety of patients and healthcare personnel within a hospital environment.
Elemental mercury principally affects two organs of the body. One is the lungs. So one person can experience like headaches, fever, lethargy, tiredness, fatigue, and also cough, respiratory infection. That is because of the reaction of the mercury with the lung epithelium. Then eventually it will get absorbed, and almost 70% of the absorbed mercury will then get attached to the red blood cells, and some of it will pass to the brain. Typical features could be, he may have a gingival stomatitis, that gingivitis comes, start bleeding. Then there may be tremors of the hands, very fine tremors. And then there can be visual disturbances, olfactory, what we call the constriction of the field. They form a classical picture of elemental mercury toxicity.
It is for this reason that adequate measures and precaution must be taken if one is to have a mercury spill in their house.
ये मर्करी स्पिलेज किट है। जब मर्करी फ्लोर में स्पिलेज हो जाती है तब हम सबसे पहले हम कोई भी ऑर्नामेंट्स हाथ में डाला है, रिंग वगैरह डाली है, तो हम उसको रिमूव कर देते हैं और फिर उसके बाद हम ग्लव्स डालेंगे। हम डबल ग्लव्स यूज़ करेंगे और उसके बाद एक कंटेनर लेंगे जिसमें 10 ml ऑफ डिस्टिल वाटर होगा, वो उसको लेंगे। फिर जहाँ मर्करी स्पिलेज होगी हम कार्डबोर्ड से वो पूरी मर्करी स्पिलेज को कलेक्शन करेंगे और फिर उसके बाद हम ये सिरिंज से उसको सक करके हम डिस्टिल वाटर के बीच में इसमें डालेंगे और उसके बाद हम इसको सील करके उसको डिपार्टमेंट में भेज देते हैं।
Though it is important to equip people with the right know-how, it is rather prevention over cure that is the need of the day here. Internationally, there is a very strong movement against mercury. In July of 2007, the European Union Parliament passed a resolution to ban the trade of mercury by the year 2010. Policy changes by a government in one country don't just affect the immediate masses. Instead, have a far greater impact the world over. It is in the best interest of humanity that steps are taken now. Each effort counts. The need for change is upon us. Choose life. Eliminate mercury.
Choose your right to a mercury-free environment.
Say no to mercury.